Hey, loves. Hope you guys are doing great. This is Lovefully Live. I'm glad you're returning, and I'm glad I'm finally able to do this. Life has just been insane the last 2 weeks, and I am so grateful for all the prayers and support and love that we've received from a lot of you guys. So everything is good now. We're back to normal, and life is moving on, moving forward. But hey, we have some pretty exciting stuff to share with you guys, and one of the things that we wanted to share is we just recently came back from a marriage retreat, and it was a blessing because we were able to receive. That doesn't happen that often for us as a couple. We're always out there giving, and so it was nice to just sit and receive. And so I wanted to share with you guys a bit of the reminders that we were given over that weekend. And one of the big ones is that the fact that God made all things good, right? The one thing that God did not make good was the fact that man was alone, and he knew that was not good. And so he gave man a partner, and he also asked for them to go forth, be fruitful, and multiply. One of the big parts that we forget is he also said, to fill the earth and subdue it. To fill the earth and subdue it. We get hung up on the be fruitful and multiply. And it's like we always think automatically, wow, he really wants us to have a whole bunch of children. No, that's not the fact. The fact is that to be fruitful, to multiply, yes, to generate, but also to fill the earth and subdue it. To fill the earth with what? How does a couple fill this earth? How as we as a couple are filling the earth? What are we filling it with? And so before we dive into that, I'm just going to remind everybody, if you have not yet subscribed to Lovefully Alive, do that now. If you find this video at all helpful, give us a thumbs up. Let us know that what we're doing is something that you're interested to hear more of and are willing to turn on that little alert, that little bell. Click on so that way you're notified whenever we upload a new video. What is our part as a couple filling the earth with? What are we doing to fill it? How are we bringing fruit into the world? So one of the huge ways that we forget to think about is how we love one another. We take it for granted a lot of the times, especially when we've been married for so long. It's so hard to stay focused on that love, deepening that love and strengthening that love, especially when kids come along and come into the picture. We get overwhelmed and we get bombarded with everything that happens in life, and we find ourselves much more busier than ever, and so we just focus on raising the kids. Well, that's great, but if we're not raising them together and communicating constantly, then it's not so good. So let's go back to the beginning of us, this authentic love. What does that look like? What does it feel like? How does that play a part in how we're subduing the earth, filling this earth, filling this life? And so it's good to know that, first of all, authentic love is caught up in divine love. Authentic love is caught up in divine love. What the heck does that mean? Well, it's also great to note that divine love is rooted on the cross, in his cross. So, of course, there's going to be some sacrifice. Of course, there's going to be a call to lay down my life for the sake of another. Just as he did. He showed us what love truly looks like. And this is how we live out that authentic love in our married life, in our everyday life. So, for me personally, authentic love means setting my selfish wants and needs for someone else's. Like, let's say I want to go out and just have a cup of coffee and sit and be with my beloved and just talk. Nothing wrong with that. But he comes home and has plans to go out on a dinner date with another couple, and there that went out the door. Now I have to decide, do I want to dig in my heels and be stubborn about going out and just being us Or do I, because, sometimes it takes a lot for our husbands to plan something. And I have to take that into consideration. I know he's given it some thought, and he's feeling really good about coming up with this all on his own. So I need to think about that. And that's when I need to say, okay, let's just go ahead and do what you had planned. For me, that's authentic love, because I would rather have us sit with just he and I, even sitting on our porch, having some coffee and just being together. To me, that's much more entertaining because we don't get those moments. But I know when he's planned something and thought it out and put it together, he's really made an effort to make something happen for us. And that I need to appreciate. Not all the time. Sometimes I will dig in my heels and say, no. And so that's not me living authentic love. Okay? So that's one way. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's not being so picky or particular about the shoes and socks that get left all over the house, and just picking them up and putting them in their rightful place, right? That's me living authentic love out. Think about those things that you do in your everyday life that calls for us to fulfill it with authentic love, not with the grunting and the grumbling and blah, 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 blah. Because one of the beautiful things about authentic love is that it's freely given and freely received. If I'm grumbling and whining and complaining and throwing a fit as I'm picking up those socks and shoes, which I normally do, then it's not really authentic. It has to be real. It has to come from a place of me being in a giving act, freely giving of myself to do that for another. Okay, so that's what it means about being rooted on the cross. There's sacrifice, and that sacrifice is huge when you talk about setting your selfish wants or needs aside. And it's not that what you want is a bad thing. It's the fact that to love is to will the good of the other. And when we love, we're focused on that, willing the good of the other. Another part of authentic love is dying to self for the sake of the other. That's truly being able to deny yourself in little things. Over the weekend on this marriage retreat, it was so cute because a couple that came out and did the retreat for us, facilitated the retreat, they shared with us the fact that they're from Canada, and the husband could not wait to hit Texas ground to have a big fat cheeseburger or hamburger because he knew our beef is good. Hey, we're in Texas. We know beef. So he was like in line at the airport in Houston, I believe, and he was in line, and it was a long line, and he was ready to, get his burger on. And his wife looks over at the coffee house, and there's Pete's Coffee, and she really likes Pete's Coffee. And so he knew that and made that connection, and he decided to join his wife and another friend in that line and have coffee instead of his burger. Now, I don't know about you, but if you know me, beef is huge with me. I don't know if I would have given up my burger for coffee at that point, especially if I've been out of Texas for a while. There is nothing more great than, okay, I guess it was. The greater good was the good of the other, to will the good of the other. And he joined his beloved in that Pete's Coffee line and had coffee with her. And so I thought, wow, that's major. But that's authentic love. He didn't have to, and he didn't force himself to. He allowed himself to be a gift to another and freely went over and enjoyed his coffee with his beloved wife. Didn't make a big deal out of it or anything, but it did play a part in the retreat. And you see how God spins that? He allows those little sacrifices, those little ways of laying down our lives for the sake of another, to be that part of the subduing. That is how we subdue. That is how we subdue and fill the earth, with those little sacrifices, with those little acts of love, with those little glimpses of authentic love. Remember that when we're living this out, we totally unite that love to divine love. so it's so beautiful, because it's not just me. It's not just us against the world. It's us with God's divine love, proclaiming his goodness everywhere we go. If we're truly living out our love as we're called to, that's authentic love. And so hopefully some of this stuff has really resonated with you guys. And I know we need to be reminded every now and then that, you know, those little things, God sees all. God knows everything. And boy, does he know when I'm doing it out of just spite. I'm just frustrated. I'm just annoyed. I'm irritated. And I hate when I get that way, because it kind of controls the whole day for me. And so if we're not careful, we can run our days into the ground like that. And that's not the kind of love that God called us to subdue the earth with. Okay? So, hope this was helpful. I know you guys are awesome for allowing us to just share with you guys, and we're also sharing from a personal perspective. So if you like this kind of stuff, give us that thumbs up and let us know that you want more of it by subscribing, and this way we can keep ourselves accountable to just putting this stuff out there. Again, we are growing right alongside with you, and nothing is better than being in this together. It's all about communion. Thank you for watching Love Fully Alive, and we can't wait to see you next time. God bless and goodbye.